Yo, guys. It is Old Man G here, back again for actually quite an early show, actually. So obviously there was breaking news last night. I would have gone live last night, but it did come quite late, probably close to 11. But we're going to talk about that. This whole Bruno Fernandes to Al-Hilal, the deal looks like it's hotting up. I think Ben Jacobs, as well as other outlets, have given us a bit of an update. We're going to talk about Jadon Sancho. Obviously, the deal looks like he might be staying at Chelsea after all, especially after that Champions League, UEFA Conference League, not Champions League performance. Then we're going to be talking about Liam Delap. Obviously, it's confirmed that he is going to Chelsea. What does that mean for Manchester United? Is Gyokeres still on? Given that Chelsea signed Delap, it looks like Arsenal going for Sesko. So is Gyokeres to Manchester United still on? I mean, we'll talk about that. But remember, guys, if you are new to the channel, remember to like, share, and subscribe to Red Devil Studio. Follow us on Twitter, We at Night X, smash that notification button, etc. etc. So, I mean, big up everyone in chat, by the way. I've just seen everyone. Okay, big up Mustafa says, man, RDS going to miss Bruno if he leaves. Good morning, RDS. Good morning, Seven. If you're doing well, we have to replace Bruno. I'm worried. Seven. Yes, yeah. I mean, we're going to talk a bit about that because obviously, for those who have seen the news coming out, obviously last night was the Bruno Fernandes. There's had talks. I'm going to just go through the Ben Jacobs piece and obviously give my thoughts as well. So if anyone can see this, according to Ben Jacobs, and I like showing my sources as well, by the way. Laurie Whitwell tweet. Let me see that. This is Laurie Whitwell tweet. Let me see what Laurie Whitwell said before I go. Not that I don't. I'm personally. Laurie Whitwell is like. I'm like. I would certainly put Ben Jacobs over Laurie Whitwell. Yep. There's a bit of Ahmad. Laurie Whitwell says Bruno Fernandes gives this consideration to Al-Hilal approach as talks in Saudi Arabia. United relax about the situation. Fernandes has been an example on tour, toy community to fans and younger players. So yeah, so that's essentially similar to what Ben Jacobs has said. So basically, he said Bruno Fernandes' agent Miguel Pinho traveled to Saudi Arabia this week to meet Al Hilal and speak to President Fahad bin Nafel. Discussions described by Hilal sources as productive took place at the Four Seasons in Riyadh, and talks were late into the evening. Hilal asked early in the week for an answer in 24 hours as they look to firm up marquee signs ahead of the Club World Cup. Hilal are still waiting for Fernandes' decision but pushing. Saudi sources insist Fernandes is yet to reject their offer, adding significant efforts have been made the last 2 days to try and get Fernandes' green light. Man United's position remains they don't want to lose their captain, and no bid has arrived today from and this is the key, and no bid has arrived today from Al Hilal. The next few days are going to be key in clarifying Fernandes' future. This is interesting because I think a lot I was under the so there's a few things to unpack from this. There's a few big things to unpack this. The first thing is that okay, let me start again. The first thing, like, and the key thing is that one, Bruno Fernandes and Al Hilal, the discussions, they are serious. Okay, this is not media speculation. This is not cloud talk. This is not a nothing. Bruno is giving serious consideration to what is going on in Saudi Arabia. That's a fact. Okay, there's no discussing or debating that fact. There is clearly discussions going on between Bruno and Al Hilal and everything that's going on involved. So that's, I think, the first key aspect of the whole thing. The second thing is that they obviously want him before the Club World Cup, so we at least have a time frame as to when they want to get Bruno Fernandes to come to the club, because the Club World Cup is starting towards the end of June, if I think so. Bruno's going to go. He's going to be going very, very soon. That's the second point. The third point is that Bruno hasn't obviously made a decision. Okay, so he's not rejected the offer. So if he was really like, right, I'm going to stay United through and through, blah, blah, blah. You know, I'm not going anywhere. You know, it would have been outright rejection, and they would know. The fact he's not rejected the offer means that he is legitimately considering his options. Okay, that's the second point. That's why the third point. And the last point, I think, is that, and here's what I didn't know, was that Al-Hilal have not actually submitted an offer to Manchester United. Okay, United don't want to lose Bruno. Okay, so the idea that United want to sell him, they don't want to sell their captain, they don't want to sell Bruno, they don't want to sell him. Okay, but there's been no bid given from Al-Hilal as of yet, according to Ben Jacobson, because last week there were rumors of 100, 120 million, etc., etc., etc. So, and I suspect that's because Al-Hilal want to. They want to have, you know, they want a positive indication from Bruno that if they do put a bid in, that it's going to be accepted. So it's going to be close to being accepted. So I understand that. So that's basically, I think, where we are. What I would say about that is that we can't, you know, especially if it's Saudi, we can't sell Bruno for anything less than 100 million. You know, I certainly don't want to be in a situation where we lose Bruno for, I mean, even 60 million would be good. I'm not going to lie. 60 million would be good for Bruno Fernandes. But given how key he is, he's the captain. Obviously, Ruben Amorim doesn't want him to go. He's made that very clear. I don't think Amorim would be particularly happy if Bruno went. However, if Al-Hilal do put an offer through and they do say, listen, we want Bruno and we're going to give you Bruno for 70 mil, then there's a very good argument that Manchester United should take it. Manchester United should take the offer. I love Bruno. I think he's when I say I love Bruno, I say that I appreciate Bruno Fernandes' commitment to Manchester United. There is no doubt about that. I think he's been a committed player for Manchester United. However, if this tweet is to be believed, and it's okay, then, you know, 100 mil, you know, and as myself said, 60 mil is less wanted. Yeah, where but what I'm saying is that, you know, to get 60 mil for a player who's in his 30s is still pretty good. Like, if this is still pretty good, you know, if this was any other player, 60 mil would be good at his age. However, it's Bruno. He's the captain. He's involved. So yeah, you've got to say he's got to be I would argue a minimum of 100 mil for this guy. You know, so I mean, you're saying, Mustafa, you're saying 80. You know, I'm saying that. I mean, in fact, because I like to be interactive, let's put a poll. Let's put a poll. First of all, would you sell Bruno Fernandes? Just full stop. I'm curious. Do people want Bruno Fernandes to be sold? Just full stop. Because obviously there are a lot of people that don't. But I mean, at some point, you've got to obviously look at the money. I mean, you're saying 80 million. Yeah, for me, 80 million. 80 million would be the minimum, I think, for me, for Bruno to go. 80 million is I think is a reasonable amount. I don't think that I don't think that we're talking about selling Bruno Fernandes for less than 80 mil. 60 mil is 60 mil. Do you reject the 60 mil bill? I don't know. I don't know. It's really comes to how desperate Manchester United want to be. We won't get a good replacement for like Cherki and Bremen. I would argue Cherki and Bremen. The thing about this deal, right, is that if we do get 100 million for Bruno Fernandes, what it means is that suddenly now the money available for Manchester United to spend, it's different. It's different. Suddenly now the striker situation becomes interesting, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, because if you want to get Mbeumo, if you want to get even Gyokeres, you can say, right, we can go it. We can probably offer you higher wages as well. it makes it easier. It just does. Especially if Rashford. Hopefully, obviously, I want Rashford to stay, but if Rashford goes, that's again going to be more money for Manchester United. Sancho looks like we're going to go to that much later staying. Chelsea will pay if they couldn't agree on wages, because obviously this is the issue with a lot of Manchester United players. Rashford, Sancho, all these Manchester United players, the biggest issue is their wages. Their wages are too high. Barcelona, Betis, and Chelsea are not going to pay the same high wages that United are paying. This is the ridiculous thing in Manchester United. You want to sell players, they don't want to go because their wage demands are too high, so they can stay. But if they do want to go, they'll go to another club and they'll cut the wages because that club is obviously doing better. And they want their football careers to be better. Mustafa says Arsenal wants Sesko. That's huge for Newcastle and to get Jokos. Yeah. I mean, as I said, if Arsenal do pursue Sesko, because Gyokeres is gonna leave. We'll talk about, like I said, we'll talk about it a bit later once this, but it's big because I don't know, or I don't see who else will be in for Gyokeres, unless he's already committed. He said he's leaving Sporting, so that's without a shadow of a doubt. Because it's not, I don't think Liverpool are in for Gyokeres, or I don't seem to be in for him. I'm not sure, but Liverpool could, especially if because I think if they sell, my only weird thing about Liverpool is I know that if they sell Núñez, then they might consider it. Chelsea, obviously, they've got delap. Maybe they might go for him as well. We don't know. We don't know, but we'll see. But yeah, I am very much in the camp that this squad after this season needs a massive rebuild. We need to sign at least 6 or so plus players. Big up SSB, hope you're doing well. There needs to be a so that's better. There needs to be a rebuild. And if 100 mil is part of that, then 100 mil is part of that. That's what I say. If 100 mil is part of that, then 100 mil is part of that. That's just how it is. I think anyway. Like I said, I'm not. But then you got to think about Liverpool are not going for so exactly. So I'm getting that Liverpool aren't going to be going for there's not seem to be in for him, although words came out of nowhere. But I mean, it doesn't seem that Liverpool are going to go for the guy. So when we look at who is, Arsenal is going for Sesko. City obviously don't need a striker. Newcastle don't need a striker, or they might go for Mbeumo. Chelsea, after signing delap, could they sign Gyokeres as well? It's possible, but there doesn't seem to be any kind of noise around it so far. I don't know whether that's Chelsea's going to be Chelsea's style. Obviously, Oshman is still in the picture as well. There is that, or the Oshman's wages, because United do want a striker. The biggest issue, Gyokeres would have been the ideal, and I think if Manchester United secured CL football, Gyokeres would probably be a United player. That's why I thought. The fact they're not Mexico United football makes things tricky, a lot harder. Oshman could potentially come to Manchester United as well, but the issue is that he's not going to concede on his wage demands. And this is the thing. It's like, if you sell Bruno for 100 million, does suddenly Oshman's wage demands become palatable? Does suddenly you offer a bit more to Gyokeres? I mean, these are the things. It doesn't help. It doesn't lead to good, situations, at least in my opinion. But what at this point in time, like, what choice do Manchester United have? Manchester United do not really have a choice. It is what it is, because we have to go and get a striker. That's a striker for Manchester United. It's fundamental at this point. it's fundamental that Manchester United get a striker. No big club is touching Osimhen. Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest issue is his wages. He's obviously a prima donna. I still think Osimhen is talented, but you know, he's priced himself up because of his wages. You know, I think Napoli would sign him, would sell him for 60 mil or whatever. You know, and obviously, you know, Napoli have just won the Scudetto, so they don't need him. You know, but I mean, yeah, like I said, 400k. You know, I mean, I don't know. It's weird. It's for me, it's very strange that a player who's currently playing in the Turkish league, which no disrespect to the Turkish league, but still one of the top leagues in Europe, is saying, right, it's seemingly, and I don't know it's because he wants to go stay in Napoli, but I mean, you know, the very fact that Conte is now staying as Napoli head coach means that Osimhen is not coming back. And I would argue, because obviously Conte doesn't want Osimhen, he's got Lukaku. Conte wants Osimhen gone. Conte wants money to buy players, etc. So I think there'll be pressure on Napoli and the Napoli board to try and get rid of Osimhen. But I don't know how long his contract is as well, but I mean, he's obviously Osimhen is good, but he's a tier below at least for that type of wages. Yeah. Not for 400k. I mean, I don't know how long. I mean, let me just have a look how long Osimhen's contract is. Let's have a look. Osimhen. Because all this is important because player Nargo is unable to discuss how long is his contract? Victor Osimhen is coming loan transfer to Gyokeres and confirmed an option to extend his contract with Napoli until June 2027. So it looks like an option to extend his contract. I mean, I don't know whether that's him. Maybe you know, I mean, Metro is saying not. I mean, there've been obviously reports overnight because we get to the strike situation where Napoli demand Højlund plus 3.6% Manchester United Osimhen starting. Maybe that's a deal that we could do. That's obviously there's been talks about us doing that deal with Højlund and Osimhen. But I think the key is just the wages. It's just the wages. The wages are the biggest issue. Razwan says United have been too reliant on Bruno. Time was to stand up. 80 million, 200 million, and United could sign 2 recorded players. Would even suggest players like Tillemans, Edison. Yeah, exactly. I mean, going back to Bruno, I think this is the key thing: is that you know, we shouldn't be reliant on one player. As much as I commend Bruno for coming from Manchester United, especially when Oli signed him, the reality is we can't be relying on him all the time. And two, he's not world class. You know, this is not peak Messi or peak Ronaldo or something like that. Like he's not world class. You know, if you can get 100 million, there's not that many. I mean, I don't know. There might be some, but they're not that many. I mean, if I can only imagine if we had kept Ronaldo and Ronaldo had said, "Listen, I want to go to Saudi," and got the contract and we'd sold him. I wish we'd done it that way. I wish we actually got. Imagine if we actually got big money for Ronaldo and Al Nasser had said, right, and he spoke to the Saudi teams and and Ronaldo did it that way. That I think it's one of the issues of Brees that I have with CR7 with things because you got into a spat with the manager who wouldn't play you, wouldn't start you. You got annoyed, and then you left, and you didn't even give any money back to the club. You know, so it's mildly frustrating, and the thing was terminated, and it wasn't really ideal. So for me, in the Bruno situation, let's get some money. Let's get something to probably come back and invest in the club. Sorry, 1 second, guys. I'm just moving all over the place right now. Right, okay. Bruno is probably better than what he's advertised as, but this is his peak in an Alpha brand agent. So yeah, exactly. I don't really see Bruno Fernandes. Unlucky. That's harsh. Really couldn't. That's harsh. That's harsh. That's harsh. I think Bruno has been committed. I think he's a loyal. He's a loyal soldier, and I like. And at the end of the day, he's been committed, but he's a loyal soldier. So, but can you really, you know, could you really say no to 200 mil a year, or for his contract anyway, for De Bruyne? And two, could you really say no to, if you're United, to 100 million for him? I don't think you could. I don't think you could. I think United needs to find some way of getting this deal, because it's obviously going to be book. It's going to be big. It would be big for Manchester United from a spending purchasing power. So let's obviously see what happens. I think that this is one that this is the one to sort of watch this space on, as it were, and take things from there. But we'll come back to it, obviously. Let me look at the poll where we've got some votes. So about 80% of you would say sell Bruno, with about 20% of you saying that you would keep him. Okay, so that's interesting. Right, okay, let's quickly move on story-wise. Obviously, this also came in yesterday as well. We're going to be talking about, and we'll look at Fabrizio as well. So, and hopefully everyone can see that. So, Sancho, obviously Jadon Sancho is now a UEFA Conference League champion. Sancho is definitely interested in, or not interested in, wants to stay at Chelsea, very much so. Don't think there are any complaints there. Now, initially, there was some talk about the fact that Chelsea just, wanted to send him back, didn't want to have any issues with him, and a lot of, and my understanding is that a lot of Chelsea fans didn't really want him to stay. They wanted better. They wanted better than Jadon Sancho. Obviously scored a really nice goal, all these things, he's got that technique, but they wanted better. But so far, the reports seem to be, and as Fabrizio is saying here, Chelsea are in active talks with Jadon Sancho's agents to understand salary requests as crucial point here the partners in player's future. Chelsea won't match Jadon Sancho's contract Man United, talks for and decision made in a few days. So what this says quickly is that if Sancho's salary demands are reasonable, Chelsea will sign. Chelsea will give us the additional 20 more. Chelsea will sign. If his salary demands are reasonable, Chelsea will sign. Without a shadow of a doubt, they will sign. The issue is his salary demands. So if how can I say, if Sancho ends up coming back to Manchester United, it's because of his wages. It's because he's a mercenary. Simple. So all the talk about, and aside, I don't know where he would fit in Manchester anyway, because we're not playing with wingers, but still, or maybe he wants to go back to Dortmund. I don't know. But I mean, the key thing is that, like, it's basically the decision of where he's going to go is essentially in Jadon Sancho's hands. It's in Sancho's hands. It's not in my hands, not in your hands. It's in Jadon Sancho's hands. He was on Manchester United. He was on, I think, at least 250, if I recall. I think it was probably 250. Let me have a quick look. So look. Yeah, 300k a week. Yeah, Jadon Sancho week segment is wanted to be about 250k. Manchester United is currently paying 50,000 of that amount, while Chelsea is covering the rest. Therefore, Sancho's net weekly income is currently 200 at Chelsea, which is still paying £50,000. Okay, so it's part of the loan. So it's 250. Okay. 250. Fine. So if his salary is 250 approximately, Chelsea don't want to pay that amount. Okay, Chelsea don't want to pay 250. Your club is finished. You fed Burley. Fags, mate. Fags. Apparently, Osherman's wage are around 200k already at Galatasaray. I mean, well, if we're going to get, we could get him for 200k, but I think Oshman wants 400. So we can't sign Oshman if he wants 400k wages. 200, 250, fine. 400, no. Jadon Sancho, if you can drop your wages down to 310. I mean, this is the key. It looks like for me, if Jadon Sancho wants to go to Chelsea, stay at Chelsea, he has to drop his wages to below 200. Certainly below 250. It probably has to be 200 or less. I don't see Chelsea paying 251 to 250k for him. So that seems to be the negotiation. He's obviously enjoying his football. You know, he needs to think about, the World Cup is also coming on. I think a lot of these England players going into next season needs to be thinking, I want to get an England call-up. I want to get an England call-up. Obviously, Tuchel's England manager, but I want to get an England call-up. And especially if you're paying for Chelsea, because I guess Tuchel, Chelsea, that will give you, the opportunity to potentially get an England call-up. So if you're Jadon Sancho, if you're Rashford, etc., and you're thinking about the World Cup, then you cut your wages. Simple as that. Like, you don't have many other options. You cut your wages, and then you go to that particular team. That's just what you have to do. It's as simple as that. I don't really see likes of Sancho, the likes of Anthony got a call up to Brazil because of what he's done for Betis. But at the end of the day, if Betis doesn't sign or if he doesn't find a move away, then that could change. So this summer transfer window is critical for players like Sancho, like Rashford, like Anthony, etc., who may be looking at this World Cup thinking, this is going to be the World Cup where I'm essentially near or close to my peak. I may not necessarily get another chance like this again. I need to get into this competition. So I hope that Jadon Sancho goes. Obviously, it's a significant loss on what we paid on him. We've made a lot of losses. We're going to make a loss on Anthony. We're going to make a loss on Jadon Sancho. We obviously will make, if we sell Rashford, we will make profit on Rashford. That's obviously big. But we've got to see what happens. But if I am Sancho, I cut the wages. Give us 20 mil. Go. We now have, although we're paying £50,000, still because he's on loan of the £250,000. Again, we've already got Lindelof, Evans, all these people off the wage book. Sancho will be another guy off the wage book. Rashford, who's on 300k, if he goes, he'll be off the wage book. So we're saving a lot in wages with this, and hopefully, again, like I said, the wages being saved as well as can be used to just sort of adjust things. I'm hoping anyway. I could be wrong, but I'm hoping. SB says Rashford is. Like I said, 40 mil to Barcelona is fine, but just like with Sancho, the whole thing is the wages. Or Rashford, Barcelona are not going to be paying 300k for a guy who they don't see as a starter. So Rashford, for me, would have to go to at least maybe 100. Can he do that? You know, this is the key. A lot of these players, they just price themselves up because they're wage demands. They've got to take pay cuts. Ace Man will want, well, wherever he goes, I don't know. I've not seen anything on that, Lucky. So, but cheers. Decades, if Sancho goes to World Cup, yeah, probably. But again, it depends on how much he plays for Chelsea in the season. Why, you know, some players that's good away that Merkel could go to job centers to look for players. But yeah, let's obviously see what happens. So we'll watch obviously the space when it comes to Sancho. Let's see, and come back to it. Obviously, with a lot of transfer news coming up during the day. Right, moving on to, so let's talk about a striker talk now. So this is the striker section now. Now, obviously, for those who tuned in or who were focusing yesterday, delap obviously is going to Chelsea. As you can see, there was a here we go deal done. Chelsea played the 30 million release clause for delap to go to Chelsea. No, that's fair enough. But what does this mean? Where does this take? In fact, let's start another poll. Okay, so the end of the poll, so yeah, 75% of you would want to sell Bruno, 25% no. Okay, interesting. Okay, so still a sizable amount of people that wouldn't want Bruno to be sold. I'll end that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another poll. And what I want to see is that which striker should United sign? So, in fact, no. Which striker can United sign? Because realistically, there's not that many strikers that Manchester United can sign. So we've got Oshman here, Gyokeres, I don't know, would Mbeumo come under this? Mbeumo, I guess. Is there anyone else? I don't think there's anyone else that I can think of. I can't think of any others. So let's have this poll and then see what you guys say. Because so yeah. So this is the strike talk because as it stands now, obviously delap to Manchester United. It's like I said, we're pushing to sign Phillips, Mateta, and McKay. Happy play. Okay, yeah. The other option is up for that, right? So the facts are Arsenal are going for Sesko, Chelsea starting delap. Obviously, City and Liverpool don't seem to be looking for strikers right now or in for them. Newcastle are, and I think but I don't think Newcastle will be going for Gyokeres or Oshman, possibly in Mbeumo, which is where I think United need to be careful if they are interested in Mbeumo. And then, so there doesn't seem to be that many people. I mean, even across Europe, you know, Real Madrid, do Real Madrid look like? I personally, Real Madrid need a striker, but it doesn't sound like Real Madrid are sounding out about it. Again, Barcelona, I also think they need a striker, but none of those teams, from what I can see, seem to really be, sounding out, for Gyokeres. Bayern Munich have got Kane, so they're not going to be interested in. PSG don't seem to be interested, from what I can see. So really and truly, it could be that United do find a way. Arsenal CL winners 25-26. You're always changing it to push the sort of the fig. So, but big up, bro. It must have been quite bad. I mean, I as a United fan, you're suffering, but Arsenal fans must be suffering, even though they're going to be in the Champions League, to see Palace and Spurs and Chelsea all in trophies, and stuff. It's not been great. You need to sell Bruno to make some money for this transfer. Yeah, I think that, and this is why this all goes back to the beginning in the show, is that United need this. if this 100 million Bruno transfer goes through, it does free up a lot. It frees up a lot. You know, it frees a lot. So because then from a wage perspective, we can, because I think whatever bid we give to Sporting would accept. The issue is Gyokeres. Now it's the players, because the players look at United going, okay, this team's in the mud. It finished where it's finishing, and it's not got CFO. I'm not going to be playing in Europe for a year. My career could tank. I don't know. It's a big decision. You know, what is going on? You know, I don't know what's going on. You know, so it's a tricky one. You know, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one. It's a tricky one. Next season we win. I'm assuming this is Arsenal. We win Champions League, probably quarter. So I see that's to get an Arsenal fan. So shout out to Arsenal. Although, like I said, we didn't win a trophy, so it is fine. My friend, you can't talk. You also got, yeah, something fine to go for. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's fine. But at the end of the day, you know, I mean, I completely United at the trash season. So, but the reality is that, and I'm not even saying also the better United, but the reality is that we play football to get trophies. So, you know, people were criticizing certain managers for just getting top 4 all the time, you know. So at some point, with all the investment that you spend, etc., you gotta get. There's got to be some trophy, you know. You can't go 10 years finishing second, third, fourth, etc., and not have at least one trophy to show for it. It's so that's the concern. And this is not me. This is not my words. This is your legend Thierry Henry's words. Thierry Henry was saying that exact same thing. The Arsenal legend Thierry Henry was saying that, you know. But yeah, I don't know. I think that if as everyone can see in the poll with, I mean, let's look at the poll again. I think you got obviously people saying which striker can United sign in Buemo. We need to be all over the Buemo deal. I would love it if somehow we could get both, because I still think that I like this bad. What McDonald's says, yeah, McDonald's FA Cup and KFC. Yeah, but the problem is that the trophies though. You know, like it's like, yes, Tottenham won the Europa League, but they're trophies. They're trophies. You know, having a trophy is better than having 0 trophies. That's the thing. Having 1 trophy is better than having 0 trophies. And you talk about Arsenal, but Arsenal haven't won the Premier League. Arsenal haven't won the Premier League. United have won the Premier League and Champions League. Arsenal have never won a Champions League. And United have won the Premier League more recently than Arsenal have. You know, so when you come back, you know, when you come back and you win the Premier League and Champions League, then fine. But just competing for them, you know, you've got to win it at some point, you know? You've got to win it. But, you know, shout out to Arsenal. I hope they do, because I don't have an issue with Arsenal right now. It's just that I don't know how long the Arsenal fans are going to be content with not having a trophy. Like any trophy, you know? But yeah, as far as strikers go, fundamentally, I just think that I mean, we need 2 strikers, which is the first thing. So obviously, I think United would have wanted delap to come and then maybe get Bremo, and then maybe you can do something. Lucky says, okay, this is shameless. This is shameless. This is shameless. This is don't flex that. This is shameless, man. That's shameless. Big up, bro. John Philip Matea, we will give better team wages, equal team play. Yeah, I mean, maybe that we could go for him. Maybe. But yeah, I think that like, you know, we'll see what happens ultimately. You know, we will see what happens. I'm seeing the one. What's best thing? We're going to do everyone sort of properly, but it's probably one of the last people we have in the community. I don't know. There seems to be a lot of United. I mean, don't get me wrong. I respect Bruno. I'm not saying that I want Bruno Fernandes to be sold. You know, but I just can't see. I mean, there's a lot of like you're saying was. I'm like, okay, but then if we sell, you know, I mean, I don't know what people think. You know, I think there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that want to keep Bruno, love Bruno, and I do love Bruno. I do. However, I just don't. If there are not many 31-year-olds that are going to be going for 100 million plus. And the reality is that we can't be that great if we're finishing 15th and losing the Europa League. I think a lot of United fans need to wake up and realize that United are in the gutter right now, and United need a complete and total overhaul. A complete and total overhaul. So we can't be doing this whole thing of like, oh, let's we need to hold on to this player, this person key, this person is key. Like this team finished 15th and is not getting European for the first time in X, Y, and Z. It needs a complete and total rehaul. Much like Chelsea and others that gutted their squads, and it took time. That's what United need. Chelsea completely gutted their squad and finished and had mismanagement issues and finished 12th, you know, etc. And now obviously they're where they are. You know, I think they finished 4th, obviously. You know, with players who people would say were average. So love Bruno, want him to stay, but if it means that we can actually sign players like Gyokeres, if it means that we can fully rebuild this squad, you know, then so be it. So be it. So be it. Anyway, guys, thanks everyone for watching. If remember, if you're new to the channel, to like, share, and subscribe to Red Devil Studio. Follow us on Twitter at WeUnited and smash. Red Devil Studio. X, we're on Kick as well, Instagram and TikTok. Have a nice day, guys, and cheers. Peace.